Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Confident Speaking community today. I hope you all are having a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. And as always, I absolutely appreciate your presence here today. And don't ever take it for granted because I know that there are so many things you could be doing with your time, but you choose to come and hang out with us here in the Confident Speaking community. And we absolutely appreciate that because it's what we are able to do together that makes this community what it is. Our ability to change lives, to create ripples that reach the ends of the earth, that touch lives in parts that we would never touch with our feet. So I thank you all for being here and helping contribute to what it is that we're able to do. And I really love seeing the engagement that people have, not only with this community, but as you go beyond. I don't know if I would say the four walls. I guess on the phone you've got four walls on your phone. But as we go beyond this particular community and you're having impact in other spaces and on your job and in your home, in your relationships, and that's what this is all about. So that we all have the ability to become more confident and effective communicators in any environment and in every aspect of our lives. And I really want you to make the commitment, if you haven't yet, to do that because communication is part of everything that we do in life. No matter what your career goals are, no matter what your background may be or where you come from, communication is a part of who we are as humans. That's how we engage and interact with one another. And when we become confident and effective in our communication, it opens the door for so many opportunities that we may have never expected or even wanted in our lives because things will come looking for you. Opportunity will find you when you become a confident and effective communicator, and you will experience life on a different level. When people approach you with harsh attitudes, when they approach you with animosity, you understand how to deal with that and not be affected. We learn not to allow people to take our joy as confident and effective communicators because they can't take our joy. We have to give it to them. And we don't do that here. So, those are some of the things that we're doing. But as we go along, for those of you who may be here for the first time and haven't had the opportunity to hang out with us in the confident speaking community, what we do is focus on the four P's: our pitch, pace, power, and pause as we're speaking. Those are things that allow us to be more dynamic and it helps us refine our ability to speak, just the style of what we're saying. We focus on conciseness here in this community and we use a timer with speakers. And what the timer does is provide a guide to help you understand how to manage your time, and the timer is 2 minutes for people that have been here for a while. And for the newbies that may be relatively new, then we give 3 minutes so that you're able to acclimate to the timer that we're using. And this isn't to deny you the opportunity to share your heart and share your feelings or experiences. This is to help you understand how to refine those thoughts, ideas, and feelings so that you're able to share them in a way that doesn't overwhelm people. You won't always have a lot of time to say everything that you want to say, but it's very important that you understand how to identify what's most important of all the great things that you would want to say. Because if someone says, well, you have from the time I leave my car until I get on the elevator, which might be 90 seconds, you've got to figure out what's most important to share in that moment. So, our practicing conciseness teaches you how to be prepared for those moments. And we also practice thinking on our feet. We're getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and we do challenges in this space. There are people who may have never spoken in a space before that come up, and we welcome you to come to be a speaker, even if you don't say anything. If you are one of those that may still be terrified of seeing the word speaker under your name, that's okay. We're here for you as well. So request to speak, come up and just be a speaker and wait until you're comfortable. And for those of you that may not speak English natively, I want to remind you, which most of you already know if you've ever been here at least once, you know that we embrace non-native English speakers because that's actually the majority of people that speak in space is what I've come to learn. Even though it gets highlighted, non-native English speakers, but I would dare to say the majority of the people in this space speak multiple languages, except for people like myself, which I'm trying to fix that though, because I'm working on my Arabic. So I'm not going to be the minority that only speaks one language for long. I'm growing and I'm learning Arabic, everyone. And there will probably, not probably, there will be other languages, at least one other, after I feel comfortable enough with Arabic as I continue to grow, because our goal in here is continue to grow, always be trying to grow. So with that said, I want to go ahead and say hello to Donika. How are you, Donika?
Good morning, team. Good morning, Brenda, Mama B, and everybody else. So good to see you. I am doing really, really good. I'm in a good, positive mood. And my goodness, do I like this title? Benefits of interpersonal conflict. I have so much to talk about that because we deal every day with all kind of skills than we have from interpersonal, you know, skills such as communication, listening skills, empathy, teamwork, motivation, collaboration, positive attitude. Goodness gracious. And I see that on myself, I see on the students, on the clients, and on the spaces. So if we take notes today, because I know team is prepared in here, you can save money not paying anywhere else, and you can learn from others, but we can uplift each other. This is a very, very good topic. I invested a lot in this, and I'm looking forward to see what can I gain from here. Thank you, Tim.
Absolutely. Thank you, Donika. Always great to have you, and look forward to us getting into this conversation and seeing what some of the experiences are that people have had as we think about the potential benefits of interpersonal conflict. Brenda, how are you today?
Thank you so much for allowing me to co-host, and hello to the room. And good morning, everyone. It's 8:08 my way. I had to Google interpersonal. Interpersonal conflicts refers to any type of conflict involving two or more people. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one thing that I've learned is sessions and conversations like this, it is good to identify specifically what you want to address, because conflict can happen on so many different levels. And I wanted us to be able to have a frame of reference that it's about interpersonal conflict that we'll discuss today. So I want to say hello to Mama B. How are you, Mama B?
Oh my gosh. I am fantastic, Tim Brown. I am happy to be here today, as usual. If you want to know where I am at 11 a.m. Eastern every Saturday, right here. And good to see Donika and Brenda and everyone in the space. I cannot wait to hear what those potential benefits of interpersonal conflict are going to be. I'm done.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll say hello to Jesus and then Billo, and then we'll get into the conversation so we can get some feedback from everyone else as far as your experiences go with interpersonal conflict and how you may have benefited from it. Jesus, good to see you, sir.
Mr. Tim, good morning, sir, and thank you again for hosting the spaces and the wonderful co-host that you always bring along. And it's good to see that there's still some spaces out there that are true to the nature of the conversations, right? Because a lot of them get divulge into chaos, and it's because of people not being able to manage their interpersonal conflicts. So I'm really glad that you brought this topic up. It's something that we all have to take something from and grow within, just because it's something that can always be developed.
Absolutely. Totally agree, sir. And it is a very important topic to discuss. And it can really get out of hand if we aren't really intentional about understanding it, and not just the definition of it, but really digging into it a little bit more deeply than what we all know the dictionary says about conflict or interpersonal conflict. So it's a mindset that we want to establish. So it appears that Billo may have gotten dropped down. He may not have been able to hear you and felt like he needed to leave and come back. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get started. And the topic today, as listed, is potential benefits of interpersonal conflict. And I want us to have the mindset that we approach conflict a little differently. It's typical and very common that we want to avoid conflict at all costs. As much as possible, we want to avoid conflict because it's very uncomfortable in a lot of cases, and it can become confusing and it can be very divisive in relationships because most of us never really took the time to understand how to resolve conflict. We wanted to defend ourselves, protect ourselves, or establish our credibility in those moments instead of going through the process of utilizing conflict for the potential value that it has. And when we think about what conflict is, the definition from one of the dictionaries says that it's serious disagreement or argument, difference of opinion, lack of agreement or harmony, lack of agreement or harmony. And think about that part, that lack of agreement or harmony. And when we think about conflict, sometimes it isn't even a conflict with us. Sometimes it's a conflict within someone, an individual that they're dealing with themselves. And there's a tendency that this internal conflict they're struggling with spills over into someone else's lap, where you have to deal with something that they don't understand how to manage and navigate within themselves. So let's think about some of the types of conflict, and there's a number of them, but just three that I noted to point out, just to think about and keep in mind: interpersonal conflict, you have organizational conflict, there's societal conflict, you have cultural conflict, you have internal conflict, and all these different types of conflict that can arise in any given interaction that you may have. And you really want to be aware of what's going on. And as confident and effective communicators, we become more mindful, more intentional about becoming more curious about what it is that we're dealing with and what we are experiencing as we engage with people. There's always a reason people respond or behave the way that they do. And we are practicing in our lives, not just discussing it here in this community, but we're practicing it in our lives, taking the time to be patient enough with people to try and understand what is their experience, what's the why behind what I'm seeing in their behavior. For some people, it comes out of the blue and it isn't normal, it isn't typical of them, but yet you feel this conflict that's going on between the two of you. So trying to understand what's happening inside of them and why. But in order for us to benefit from conflict, before I talk about a few things that I feel would be potential benefits for you, let's talk about how you can benefit from them. In order to benefit from interpersonal conflict, we have to have the mindset that we're going to develop the right perspective. We have to stop seeing conflict as a bad thing all the time. Conflict can get bad, but conflict itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. We have to learn to see conflict as an opportunity because you have a choice to make. When you're presented with conflict, you can either confront conflict in a combative way, or you can confront conflict with a mindset of learning and understanding. So there's a choice. So we have to have the right perspective when we find ourselves face to face with a moment of conflict. That's how we're going to begin to realize the benefits of interpersonal conflict, is having the right perspective. We then have to stop running from it. As we mentioned earlier, many times we run from conflict because we don't want to deal with the stress or the strain that can come from conflict that happens between family members or friends or coworkers. And instead of addressing the conflict, we would rather turn and run. But understand that conflict is inevitable. It's an inevitable part of life. And when we accept that and we stop running from it, we get to a place where we decide that we're going to figure out how to understand and manage conflict and stop running from it and let it run its course. As we often talk about in various conversations about emotions, how we have to embrace our emotions, stop trying to suppress your sadness or your anger or those feelings that you experience in the midst of conflict or whatever the engagement may be. You have to accept the emotions that you feel and embrace them and allow them to do what they need to do in a healthy way. And the same thing applies from conflict. So we have to stop running from it. In order to benefit from interpersonal conflict, we have to stop taking it so personally, so quickly. Sometimes it is personal, but it's important that we don't get so caught up immediately taking it personally as though someone is questioning our integrity, challenging our knowledge and abilities, or trying to demean us in some form or fashion, because many times that isn't the case. When we take time and have the right perspective and we try to understand as opposed to defend or protect ourselves in those moments, we are better able to not take it personally because we're approaching it as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to gather information in those moments and realize that we aren't the only ones that have feelings. We aren't the only ones that have concerns about things going on in life. And as we keep that in the forefront of our minds, it makes it easier for us to not take it personally. And the last thing that I'll say about this is you have to listen intently to understand. And I know everyone knows that. You listen to understand, not to respond. And in order to benefit from the interpersonal conflict that happens in our lives, listen intently to understand. We have to focus on hearing the message, not just the words they're saying. Because if you focus on the words and you miss the message, you could miss the opportunity to resolve it. We have to learn to feel their heart when they're speaking in those moments of conflict, especially any of you that have ever worked in customer service and you've had an angry or an irate customer call you or come to you with a complaint about something, and you feel like their life is at the point there that it's about to end because of how irate they are and just how it can get really crazy. I've seen some situations where people seem as though they are losing their minds. But as a confident and effective communicator, you know not to run from it. You know not to take it personally, and you have the right perspective because it now becomes an opportunity to understand. So you listen intently to see what the actual problem is. And people will go on for 5 minutes, and there's only one small phrase that actually addresses the problem in all of that irateness that they just poured onto you as though it was your fault. And we have to make sure that we're mindful not to allow that to happen in our situations and engagements with people, that we are listening intently so that we're able to understand what they're saying, where they're coming from, why they're saying it, to hear the message and not just the words, and also to be able to feel their hearts. Now, the focus is on the interpersonal relationships. Now, just a few benefits, and I know there are others, but these were just a few that I wanted to touch on today just to mention to you really quickly. The first one in interpersonal relationships. And when we get, again, as Brenda said, interpersonal relationships or interpersonal conflict is the conflict that happens between two or more individuals in a setting. So one of the benefits is that it reveals true feelings. Interpersonal conflict will reveal a person's true feelings. And I'm sure everyone in here has been through those situations in relationships where you meet someone, you feel a connection, and you feel as though you want the relationship to grow. And there's this honeymoon phase. And during this honeymoon phase, everyone is trying to hide what they're really feeling, especially when there's moments or points of contention that you are feeling inside. So during this honeymoon phase, we do everything we can to avoid rocking the boat. We don't want the conflict because it feels too good when we don't have it. However, if you're going to benefit from this conflict, you have to understand that conflict opens the door to reveal true feelings. When someone is willing to express how they really feel, and there's a level of anger, there's a level of intense emotion, you know that you're probably getting the reality of what it is that they're going through and what's happening within them. Because we hide things that we feel because we don't want to upset them, we don't want to offend them, or we may be afraid of what they may think of us based on what we're saying. And if we aren't willing to embrace the idea of the conflict that may arise as a result of sharing your true feelings, then you never know what is really happening. You don't have a true relationship that's rooted in honesty and trust. So conflict allows you to get to the place that someone is willing to share their true feelings. And I'm going to say, I want to add this caveat that there are some people who may not necessarily are sharing true feelings. I'm speaking from the perspective of people that are being logical and that are not impaired by some type of condition that may cause them to, compulsive liars. Some people will lie and have conflict anyway. So I'm talking about the people who are being sincere and genuine in their feelings. So I wanted to throw that caveat in there because I know some people probably thinking, well, what about this kind of person? So I'm talking about the ones that are really being logical and are grounded, that have a mindset that this is what's really going on inside, just to clarify. But conflict can help reveal the true feelings. And you don't want to go down the long road with someone and you don't really know their true feelings about the relationship or about you. Why would you want to do that? And conflict opens the door for you to understand that, and it allows them to reveal those true feelings. And by doing so, it helps alleviate a lot of stress that people feel and experience in their relationships. When you feel that you have to hide behind the glare and the glow of the honeymoon phase and not really share your true feelings, that's very stressful. It's very stressful because you aren't being authentic with who you are, and you know that the foundation of where you are in that relationship isn't true. So it's stressful. So being able to embrace the idea of the conflict opens the door for you to reduce and alleviate a lot of stress that you may experience in a relationship because you no longer have to hide behind what you feel is the better side of the relationship because you're too afraid of messing up the relationship because you aren't willing to say what you really feel. Now, another benefit of embracing the conflict is that it saves time. If you allow the conflict to happen and stop running from it, you get to figure out pretty quickly if this person or these people are suitable for that particular season of your life. And notice I say if that person or people are suitable for that particular season of your life, they may not be the right person to be in your life right now. But that doesn't mean things can't change. They may change. They may have an epiphany. They may have a change of heart. Something happens in their life where they see things differently. So I want you to always have room for people when it's appropriate. Now, of course, there will be times that some people need to be cut off and you lock the door and throw away the key. But the majority of people, there should be room for them to be able to come back when things change. If you both feel that there's a way to move forward gracefully and with love in your hearts. But it saves time. So don't just completely cut people off right away and say, well, I'm never talking to them again, because you may miss out on a beautiful thing down the road. And that's just a reality. Sometimes we aren't ready for people in this moment in our lives. It may not even be them, it may be you that need to make some changes and adjustments. And you need this person in your life and don't even realize it. Because there's a number of people that we ourselves have tried to help or have tried to benefit them somehow, and they didn't see it. So we had to walk away because they weren't ready for it. And they argued and fought and scratched and resisted the beauty of something that was going to be great for them in their lives. So keep that in mind. And it reinforces relationships. And this is something that I say quite often in this space and community and in others, is that conflict will either bring you closer together or it will tear you apart. So this goes along and in line with saving time. So if you allow yourself to have the conflict with people that you're in relationships with, If you have the right perspective of relationship, you stop running from it, you don't take it personally, and you listen intently to understand, is going to help you confirm the bond that you have with someone. I firmly believe in my heart that you can't say that you have a solid relationship with someone if you have not had to go through some type of conflict. You don't really know, because it's when things get difficult with people that you find out how much they really care about you, how much they are willing to sacrifice for the relationship. Is it about them, or is it about us figuring out what we need to do to maintain this relationship that we have, where we say we care about one another? When you're trying to be friends, when you're trying to have relationships with people, it absolutely requires some level of sacrifice at some point in time. And I know people often say, I shouldn't have to change who I am or stop being myself. That isn't the case. You continue to be yourself, but as you're being yourself, sometimes you have to make adjustments to who you are. Because if you feel like you never have to make adjustments to who you are, that's saying that you feel like you're a perfect person. And there are no perfect people walking this earth anymore. There are no perfect people walking this earth anymore. So, in the midst of us trying to confirm those bonds, we have to be willing to go through that conflict and allow it to happen, because it's going to allow us to understand, is this someone that when things get difficult, I can count on them to be understanding enough that we can work together to figure it out? Because if you can't figure it out together, that probably is a person who isn't suitable for your life in that season, and is going to save you some time, instead of hiding your feelings because you don't want conflict and stringing a relationship along with someone for 2, 3, 4, 5 years because you weren't willing to embrace the idea of the conflict, to be honest, and alleviate the stress you're carrying. It's going to tear you apart eventually. So why not get it out of the way and figure it out as soon as possible? So don't fool yourselves. And in the midst of doing this, another benefit is that it helps you establish roles and boundaries in that relationship. Once you're able to express what you're feeling, what you're thinking through this conflict, as you're getting and sharing understanding, you recognize what your role may be in a relationship. You recognize what the boundaries and the limits may be in that relationship you're a part of. And some people really get it twisted that when they have a friend, they feel as though, well, if we're friends, I should be able to call you anytime. I should be able to get anything I need from you if I need help, even if I'm making bad decisions over and over again. And that just isn't the way life works, or it shouldn't, unless you're someone that is an enabler, which I don't think confident and effective communicators want to be enablers. Because when you enable people to continue down a path of destructive or these bad behaviors, you hinder their ability to live their best life. You cripple them and you put them in a bad position so that they don't have the ability to understand the importance of making good or better decisions in their lives. So we can't enable people. And that's why establishing those roles and understanding the boundaries are a benefit in interpersonal relationships and conflict, because it opens the door for that understanding. When someone shares those true feelings, you get to figure out, okay, well, based on what you just said, I understand now. So if I need some money, I can't call you every other week and ask you for $50 to pay my bills. I need to understand that you need to know that I'm working to pay my own bills and I'm not depending on you. Because if you are always available for people, they will always call you. And that isn't the kind of friendship or relationship you want. But when you draw the line, there's going to be a conflict, because now they're upset that you stopped the gravy train for them, and you have to be ready for it. You have to be willing to have it, because it's going to reveal their true feelings, that they only were there because of what you gave them. It's going to save you some time, because you're no longer going to be that crutch for them, where 2 years down the line, they're going to continue asking you for money, where you may have to decide, do I help them, or do I carry this stress of not helping them, or help them, and then now you jeopardize or compromise something you need to do, but it's going to reinforce the relationship if they're able to accept the boundary that you put in place, that I can't keep giving you money. I have a family myself I have to take care of. And I had to make some decisions. I had to make some sacrifices along the way to have a level of stability in my life. And as your friend, I know you don't like this, but I have to allow you to do the same for yourself. And it may hurt a little bit and you may struggle a little bit, but it's going to work out just like it did for me. And we have to be able to do that and not be afraid of the conflict that comes along with saying no, that comes along with being honest about how you feel and what your expectations are in the relationship that you're in. So it's very important that we do that. And what I wanted you all to do today is to really think about this just from the idea of the potential benefits of conflict in interpersonal relationships. Because I know that there's a lot out there. There's so much information about conflict resolution, and it gives you tools and techniques to resolve conflict. But the right mindset, I feel, is more important. Having a mindset to embrace and address the conflict so that you don't run from it, that you don't fear it, that you don't take it so personally, so quickly, and use it as an opportunity to learn. So, some potential benefits, as I summarize this and open it up for a conversation, is that it reveals people's true feelings. It saves you time so that you are able to remove people that may not be suitable for your life in that particular season. It reinforces your relationships with people because it's going to confirm the bond that you have with them. And it's going to help you establish and understand clear roles and boundaries within the relationships that you have with people. And if someone can tell me that wouldn't be beneficial for you in your life, please let me know. And I will never talk about this again. But I feel like they absolutely add value, and we have to embrace that. So, with that said, just as a reminder to everyone, as we work on our 4 Ps, that's part of what we do here. We also work on our conciseness. So we use the timer. So we do 2 minutes for people that have been here for a while, and then 3 minutes for those that may be new, first timers, or maybe once or twice. And I know you haven't had an opportunity to really acclimate to what we do in this space. And this is about refining your ability to be concise and to refine your thoughts. And you will begin to see, in the beginning, it's uncomfortable, but you will begin to recognize how valuable it is when you're in other spaces and you instinctively figure out how to refine your thoughts and not say as much as you may have normally said. Because eventually people stop listening. And you don't want to be speaking and sharing great information and people stop listening to you because it wastes their time and yours. So, with that said, and just so you know, I need to mention this. So at 1 minute 30 seconds, this chime rings. The first one means you have 30 seconds left, and that's with the 2 minute or the 3 minute timer. And then there's a second one at the end. So when you hear the first chime, just go ahead and start summarizing your thoughts because you have 30 seconds left at that point. So with that, let's go ahead over to Donika, and then Jesus, and then the builder. Donika, let me throw one more thing in there really quickly. And what one thing I want everyone to do is, as we think about this, I want to know from your life, from your experiences. I want to know, how have you seen yourself benefit from conflict, or how have you learned from a conflict in your life? That's the perspective I want you to approach this when you come to share your thoughts. How have you personally benefited from conflict, or how have you learned from conflict in a relationship with someone? Go ahead, Donika.
Thank you, Tim, for giving me a chance to speak. I'm going to share 2 examples from the personal experiences. And my goodness, I love my students because I can talk all the time about any topic. Yesterday, for example, how beautiful is to explain interpersonal conflict from perspective of a child. So when we do science, when I teach, everybody have science journal. And I told one of my students, he's very hyper. And to keep him busy, I said, can you pass the journals to other kids? So he take the journal. When I take I'm turning my back, but all of a sudden I turn around and I saw him throwing on the face of one of my students. She was a girl, and he hit her in the face. And right there I stop and I say, why did you do that? He said, what did I do? I said, why you didn't go around like you pass into the boys in their hand, but I see you flying this in two girls, like throwing in their face. And he just stopped. And I was like, I need you to come next to me. So it's not about embarrassing you. It's not about anybody laughing or judging, because we all make mistakes. But I want to turn this into a teachable moment, so we can do stuff like that without taking responsibility, because your friend is hurt, but because she cares about you, she's not saying anything. And I said, would you be comfortable to stay next to me? And I sat on the chair and I let him standing up so he doesn't feel like little or small. And the kids, I was like, nobody's going to judge. Nobody's going to criticize anything. I said, tell me what you did wrong. And he said, I throw in the face. I say, why? He said, I don't like girls very much. They are annoying. I say, why are you judging them? And I was like, can we go a little bit deeper if you want to share, because you are about to go in high school? I say, what are your relationship with your mom? He said, I hate my mom. She's not nice to me. And I said, that doesn't mean then you have to hate every girl in this classroom. They are nothing just nice to you. You have a sense of humor. You are super smart. You are so good. I said, so you have one mistake, then I have seen you throughout the year. It's okay. I say, if we go through that. And I ask the kids, I say, how can we help him? And it was such a teachable moment. And they say, Miss Gunther, you talk, you are a coach. Can you help us? Because we all have anger issues, but in a different way. And I was like, wow, they have that interpersonal conflict, but they are afraid to speak up. And right now, this is so good. So we can go to bottom of that. And I said, we have to talk with empathy. We have to talk about respect. We have to listen to everybody is doing and put yourself in other person's shoe. Like the one that is hurt and the one that is not complaining about. After like 10, 15 minutes, it was such a beautiful conversation. My goodness, I got so many hugs, and they said, Miss Gunther, we have parents never talk to us like that. Like, we don't even have this kind of conversation. And I said, we have to talk about good manners, kindness, empathy, compassion, love for each other. Because guess what? There is where we shift everything from suffering and keeping these secrets inside and bubbling like that volcano. Then you explode in the wrong moment. It now is a girl, but think about if you hit a man like that and he can come and hurt you. So it is very important for us to be aware and to pay attention to the surrounding and pay attention to your emotion, because I had to use emotional intelligence at the moment. And before we started, I forgot to tell them, I said, put your hand in your heart and let's take 3 deep breaths, one for our heart, one for our friends, and one to release this pain and whenever we keep inside our secret. And we did another 3 deep breath in the end. I am important. Even though I make mistake, I am good enough, and every day I improve and I become a better person. So what was a satisfaction in there, using negotiation, using empathy, using positive attitude. And that was like a teamwork. We put all effort to create something good, to shift that and motivate each other. So it is very important. If you see something, do something, say something, because you never know what somebody is going through. And the second example is when something happen with a person you love and is any conflict, please give people space, because you never know what people are going through. Doesn't matter, it take week, month, a year, they can hurt you. But if it's love in there and you didn't do anything intentionally, people will come to you and you don't have to question and go back what happened. You start over fresh and embrace whatever happened, because if you care and love people, sometime it is time to go over the conflict. But first is to receive people with love in your heart and let continue without judgment, because the pain and the hurt, we already know we did something wrong, so we don't have to go over that wound and push it again, but we just have to heal with love and compassion. So this is what I want to share right now. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's, listening to what Donika said, and it's a reminder that sometimes this interpersonal conflict that we experience isn't us directly. You may not be the one that's directly affected by it, but when you have the right perspective, you stop running from it. You don't take it personally, and you listen intently to understand. It opens the door for you to help facilitate resolution for other people as well. And when you do that, it opens the door for you to become someone that's known as the peacemaker, someone that people want to be around, someone that people need to be around. And I can tell you this, over about the span of a year, I found myself in the midst of, because we all know different people on this platform, and you have people that interact in different areas and they see one another at times, and some of them they don't. But I found myself in the midst of literally four different interpersonal conflicts where people that I knew the person on each side. And at some point, someone reached out to me and shared it with me because they wanted to try to resolve it and they didn't really understand how. But when we become that person who embraces conflict as confident and effective communicators, we understand how to be more curious and more understanding and how to look for the answers and the solutions. You become that beacon of light that other people want to have around when they don't quite understand how to manage it or how to fix it. So you become a source of solidarity. You can become a source of comfort for people when you understand how to navigate conflict, interpersonal conflict. And taking that time, as Donika did, she asked questions and found out that the child didn't, he hated his mother. So there's always a reason people behave the way that they behave. And it isn't always about us. It may be about something else that's going on that you have no clue about. But if you don't take the time to listen intently to understand what they are experiencing, you'll never get it, you'll never understand it, and you won't put yourself in a position to help resolve it. So thank you for sharing that, Donika. So let's go now over to, so it's going to be Jesus, and then the builder, Aura, and then I think that's Amanda. Yes. Okay. And then we'll go to, well, I know Max was up earlier. So Max, I think Max got kicked down. So, but let's go to Jesus and then the builder. Jesus, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Tim. Thank you for having me. I loved when you said that conflict gives you an opportunity. And somebody who is in the spectrum, uh, growing up, everything was conflict because you don't line up with regular societal norms, and everything is it's hard to learn. So the best way that I can describe it is every time you have conflict, it provides you a door. But when you open that door, then you have a choice. You can either learn from it or you can continue doing the same thing, which is going to lead you to the same door, just with different people. Because once you cross through that door, you no longer are associating with the people that close that door to you. That door pretty much represents, hey, these are my boundaries. And if you're not going to respect my boundaries, I can no longer be with you, right? And everybody needs to have their own boundaries. And as you grow and as you understand yourself, because interpersonal conflicts are not just the conflicts that you have with other people, it also provides you the opportunity to grow within yourself and actually give yourself the boundaries that you need in order to be able to have a healthy relationship with yourself. Because if you are not able to love yourself, you're not able to actually show that love to others. Like you are, like you criticize that in which you normally are like are a reflection of, right? So we have to be a little bit more conscious, and it allows us to be more empathetic when we're able to see the perspective of the other side. But even though we're able to understand, it doesn't mean that our boundaries are then justifiably able to be overstepped. So like it's a very thin line between, you know, having your boundaries and loving people, and being there for those that you want to be there around. At the same time, you cannot allow yourself to get sunk down with the ship. So there's a very big balancing act, and you learn that through the heartbreaks of life, which are part of those interpersonal conflicts, because that's when you start questioning yourself. And it's when you start questioning yourself that you start finding out who you truly are, and it starts molding you. But whether you heal those areas in your life that need to be healed or not, you're still going to be molded by those actions that happened in your life. So instead of trying to be a nice person, be a good person, because nice people get stepped on and you do it for validation. Good people do the things because it's the right thing to do. And I'll land my plane in that.
Mm, mm. Great points that you made, Jesus. And I think, having to balance it, there always has to be balance. And I like for people to understand that whenever I share any perspective, there's always balance in mind. And this is why I don't get into prescriptive guidance, because I want you to always be willing to think and consider the other potential perspectives and possibilities that are out there, so you can figure out what works best for you in your life in the season that you're in. Because there's always variables to things in life that we don't understand. So we have to have that balancing act as we're going through this and these conflicts. And what you said toward the beginning, sharing that you were about someone being on the spectrum, and that internal conflict that can happen with people when someone feels misunderstood. They don't feel as though people understand what they're trying to say or what they're trying to share. That can create an internal conflict within them, that now they're lashing out at people unintentionally, with no bad, no ill will, but the frustration builds. So in their mind, that's the only way they know how to get people's attention, to make sure that people are really listening, even if it isn't the most productive way. And as I shared before, when I worked with the speech therapy company with the children in pre-K, most of them pre-K, maybe first grade, it was early childhood. And a lot of them would act out because they didn't have the ability to clearly articulate their thoughts and feelings in a way that people understood it. So it created
Okay,
conflict.
so
It created.
I'll give you an example,
Wait a
which
minute,
is
wait a minute, one sec. So it created conflict in those relationships. So then you go down that path of teachers labeling them, or parents, or someone saying that they're bad children, when that isn't really the case. But no one took the time to understand, to listen, to try to understand what it is this child or this person is feeling and experiencing. And that makes a tremendous difference. Go,
well,
go.
I would actually say that it goes beyond that, because it's not always the acting out, and it's not always seen in the acting out. Like, and I'll give you one of the examples, because one of the few memories that I have of before I was 9 was my dad was going to pick me up on a weekend, and I pretended to be asleep so I can have my dad wake me up with a kiss on the forehead and telling me, "Wake up, I'm here for you." Right? I I even though I was pretending to be asleep, instead of getting that woken up, I got woken up with, in all in Spanish, but how dare this kid still be asleep, and my dad about to beat me awake. So because I didn't follow regular societal norms, there were certain consequences that were presented to me at those times, because I didn't act a certain way, or because I laughed too loud, or because it was uncomfortable for me to look at people in their eyes when they were speaking to me. So now I have a big issue with when I'm talking to somebody, making sure that I look at their eyes because for me now, when I don't do it, it is now uncomfortable and an uncomfortable conversation. So it's more than just the kids that act out that are labeled as having are kids with problems, and there's just a lot of the spectrum that is unseen just because of the degree of masking that a lot of adults have had to do to be able to cope with this world that we live in and with the people that are in it. And even though there's a lot of things that I don't understand why people do certain things, because to me it's not logical, it doesn't mean that those things don't happen. So even though I don't understand them, I still have to be aware of them. But this is only things that I was able to learn through conflicts in my life growing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a learning process, and it's a growing process, and it's a forgiving process, especially with yourself, because as a kid you end up blaming and internalizing a lot of that blame to yourself, right? Like I used to blame that being the reason that my parents got divorced when I was really, really, really young. I was about 5-ish at the time, but like they were already separated, just didn't get the actual divorce, right? So there's a lot of growing that needs to happen. And in order to be able to grow, there has to be those conflicts which happen with other people because they make you go back into a scenario where you were once in that position, and now you're able to have a different perspective, and you're able to now have a different maturity that allows you to be able to make a different choice where before you did not have a choice.
Thank you for adding that additional perspective. And yes, and that's why I say that there's always a number of variables that come into play. And I don't ever profess that what I say is the only way, that is the only consideration to have in mind. There's so many experiences that people have had that some of us couldn't even imagine. And, I hate that you had to experience that. I can only imagine that feeling that you pretend to be asleep, hoping to get a kiss on the forehead, and it turns into something completely different that you did not expect and definitely did not want. So, and there's a lot of people have those experiences. So thank you for sharing that. But it sounds like you've learned a lot and that you've grown a lot from the conflicts that you've had in your life. And it has put you in a position to better navigate them and not be afraid of them because you understand the value of learning from those conflicts that happen. So thank you for that, Jesus. And I want to ask a favor really quickly. If everyone that has their hand up, if you could put your hand down and then put it back up for me, I want to check something really quickly because I know there were several hands that were up and then they've disappeared on me. So if you could just put them down, put them back up. So I see Aura's hand because I had Builder. I know Builder was next. Builder, Aura, Amanda, and then Mama B. Okay, so I see the hands again. And just a reminder for those of you that recently joined the space, everyone is welcome to speak, and we invite you to come up and join the conversation. Today, we're talking about the potential benefits of interpersonal conflict, and we want to hear your personal experience of how conflict may have allowed you to grow or how conflict may have benefited you somehow because you went through it. And that's what we want to hear from you. And everyone is welcome to speak. And we still have some mics that are available in case some of you want to come up. And for those of you who may be afraid to speak, we don't want you to be afraid. I know it's easy to say not to be afraid, but I want you to know that if you want, you're welcome to request to be a speaker, and we don't call on people unless they raise their hand because we want you to be comfortable enough to take that step to at least be a speaker and see the word speaker under your name because that's very uncomfortable for some people. Our goal is to make progress and not try to be perfect, because perfection does not exist for us as humans. So we're comfortable with you taking steps. So as long as you're making progress and moving forward, we're good. But we're going to help you every step of the way. Don't worry about making mistakes. Don't worry about speaking perfect English, because none of us do. We all make mistakes, and we're going to be here to help you every step of the way. So if you make the mistakes here, it makes it easier to avoid the mistakes somewhere else. And that's why we want you to come get involved and participate, because we're practicing here. We're just trying to practice. And even though it's a conversation about potential benefits of interpersonal conflict, every time you speak is an opportunity to practice your 4 Ps. It's an opportunity to practice your conciseness. It's an opportunity to get comfortable being uncomfortable and learning to think on your feet. So get involved, come up, because we close at 1:30 today, closing at 1:30, and we will try to do some challenges to see if some people want to do that. And for those of you who feel you may want to do a challenge, if you look at my pinned, well, it isn't pinned in the chat. I put a post in the chat that explains the guidelines for the community, but then there's also a document that talks about how the challenges work, so that you understand what you're going to be doing if you decide to do one of the challenges. So we can save some time having to explain that to new people every time they come up. So with that, we will go ahead and go over to Builder. Builder, how are you, Builder?
Hello, Tim. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Tim, for allowing me to speak on your space today. Hello, Mama B. I hope you're doing great. Donika, Brenda, I see you. Okay, I wasn't able to join last week's space, and yeah, although I listened to the recording, and yeah, it gave me a lot of value. Okay, so about today's topic, right? Potential benefits of interpersonal conflict. That's an amazing topic, and say that I would want to talk about internal conflict, right? So each and every individual on this call here, try as much as possible to conquer whatever thing they deal within them inside. So I was having a conflict with myself, right now, trying to uh, speak on this space, right? Trying to request for the mic to speak, because I was telling myself that okay, an inner voice was telling me not to do that, because almost all the things that we are supposed to know by has been shared by Tim, right? But I told myself that no, whatever thing that I have to say has to be said today, right? So I would want to share this. I own a laundry business in West Africa, Ghana. That is where I find myself, and I got the opportunity to go to a church because a pastor invited me to come and market myself to their congregation, right? So I was a day to that event. Uh, I nearly did not go to that event because I was very afraid. Because I yes, like as in you can see that right now I am even fidgeting, right? So I I didn't want to go. Why? Because of I was afraid to make mistakes on the stage. I was the mere thought of me standing in front of the congregation and sharing my thoughts, as in telling them what I do, gave me chills, right? But I told myself that no. So I read somewhere that in life you shouldn't listen to that inner voice. You have to meet by talking to yourself instead. Okay, so I went there, and God being so good, I got I think 5 customers there that I am working with now. So you should know that if I hadn't gone to that place, I wouldn't have gotten that 5 customers that I am working with right now. So I am telling each and every individual on here that whatever thing that you want to share, but an inner voice is telling you not to, please try as much as possible to request for the mic and speak, nothing would happen to you. If Tim can do it, if Brenda, if Mama B can do it, we all can. Thank you very much. And Tim, here is where I drop the mic.
Thank you for that, Builder. And that is absolutely. Let me get that muted. That's absolutely my mindset that if someone else can do it, I can do it. And that isn't to compare myself to someone, but if I see someone else doing something that I feel like I may need to do or may want to do, I know that it's possible. And that's that internal conflict that you were having, that you fought through. You embraced it and you did what you had to do. And it's amazing that when we just show up, opportunity many times is there waiting on us to show up. And if you aren't willing to show up, you're going to miss out on a lot in life. And when you show up, I want you to be prepared for the moment when you get there. And that's why the practice we do in this community is so important for you. And it can be so valuable when you commit to doing it and being intentional about becoming more confident and effective communicators. Because the builder just shared a great example of how he was willing to push through what he was feeling inside in spite of the nervousness that he may have felt or the hesitation he may have felt. He did it anyway, and he was blessed for it. There was benefit and opportunity waiting on him. So thank you for sharing that with us. So let's go now over to Aura. Let's see, Aura. Yes, how are you, Aura? Aura.
Yes, thank you. It's Aura. I'm well, Tim. I'm in my main account today, so it's great to be here, and I'm excited because on Saturdays I don't always get to join any spaces, but I've really been trying to come back to this one because I'm learning a lot, and I'm very, very grateful. And I was thinking about the word that you said about peacemaker, and from that it kind of brought me to my journey of how I started off as a peacekeeper, and it has been a long and laborious and beautiful journey to get from peacekeeper to peacemaker. And what I mean by that is I can see now how my family, for the generations, so both my parents have passed away, but I love all that they gave me. They gave me everything they could give me. And I did the same, even though a lot of times I was that person that you described. I was that person with the disordered thinking who would just react like a wild animal. I was so trauma filled, and I was running around holding all of my trauma, wondering, I was vacillating between keeping it all stuffed down and not being able to, and it would explode all over whoever was there, usually a family member and not somebody who was outside the family, because the general idea was don't ask, don't tell, don't feel in our family, in our generation. I can see how that was painful for all of us. I'm sure my parents didn't enjoy that either as little kids and then as adults. So people pleasing was part of my peacekeeping, and a lot of external, getting that external validation meant conformity and doing what felt safe. I did so much stuff in the name of feeling safe and feeling protected. And so, in my own way, like feeling like I wanted to be part of that clan or gang or group that would provide me that safety if only I just conformed. And so, in doing that, I didn't realize what I was giving up. And eventually, the whole cart came crashing down and totally had a breakdown at some point. And what a beautiful breaking apart that was. Because as I lost all these relationships, even at the time with close loved ones, I was realizing, oh, thank you, they were doing me a favor by not enabling me. They were giving me the gracious space to see what I needed. And that's when I could start to look internally. I could take the time to fall in love with myself. I could get fear out of the driver's seat and nicely into the passenger seat or the back seat. And then my loving parent and inner child could step in and replace the inner critic and ego, who honestly, they were exhausted. and happy to retire. So thank you for the jingle. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the chance to come up and share. And I'll pass back to you, Tim.
Thank you for sharing that, Aura. And I'll say this just to remind everyone, with the chimer and the timer, that's a one button push. So I don't sit and just press the chime myself. It's already built in, just so everyone knows. And I think that has a different impact, understanding the process of how it works. So I just wanted to point that out. But I love that you acknowledge your role in some of those situations. You were very much aware of who you were and what you contributed to those circumstances you were in, but you did the work to figure out how to do it differently. And that's what we have to do. And that speaks to the idea I mentioned earlier about not having to change who you are, but sometimes we have to change what we do. You be the same person you are, but just because you do something doesn't mean that's who you are. That's what you do. So understand the difference between who you are and what you do. And I'm glad you were able to go through that process you went through, Aura, because we have to, sometimes in life we have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired before we're willing to make the changes and do what's necessary to move forward in our lives. And sometimes it's painful, it can hurt. And we may lose relationships with people who aren't willing to go through that with us. And that's why one of the benefits is that it helps reinforce relationships, or it saves time, because you're able to identify who those people that may not be suitable for you in that season of your life, because all they want is what they can get, not because of who you are and how much they care about you. So I'm happy that you've made it through to the other side of that. And I get it. You may still be doing some work, because we all are. We're all a work in progress, but you are aware of what you need to be doing, and you're moving in that direction intentionally. So kudos to you, and thank you for sharing the experience that you've had with us. So let's go now over to, so we got Amanda, then Mama B, then Patriot, and then Lawan. Amanda, how are you?
I'm good. Can I go ask? Oh, sorry, the dog's just arrived. I'll be 2 seconds.
So we'll come back then. So we'll go to Mama B, and then we'll go to Amanda. Mama B, how are you again? I know how you were an hour ago.
Fantastic again. Yes, Tim Brown. What a topic, what a beautiful topic. And Ingrid posted in the chat about how this, I guess she's posting to her people, her followers, to join the space. And she says it's a beautiful, something about a time of growing into this, in this room space. And I said, yeah, it really has been a journey of growth in Tim's space. So I so appreciate this space. So anyway, going to the question, how have I personally benefited from conflict? Woo! And, I agree with all of what you said, the opportunity of growing, the opportunity of establishing or reinforcing relationships and all the good stuff that you mentioned. I'm just going to add that the re-establishing of relationship, or reinforcing of the relationship. I don't know. I had my notes over here. I don't know what's going on over here now with all of this stuff. Now that I have a tablet, my table is a little full. Anyway, so I was saying that for me, how I personally benefited from conflict is it helped me know myself. It helped me know myself and know who should be around me and who I should keep around me. So it helped me eliminate people who were not supposed to be in my life. So I loved how that was the opportunity for me, the opportunity to understand what relationships I need to have in my life and what I should not have in my life. So I love those people who had all of the strife and the conflict, because it gave me the opportunity to know who I don't need in my life. So I just wanted to throw that out. Thank you. I'm done.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. And sometimes it's that simple. We need to know what's important. Just like we know the 5 food groups. I think it's still 5, but fruit, vegetables, meat, dairy, and dessert is 5, right? I know dessert is on there.
Chocolate.
Chocolate, okay. But understanding what's necessary, what we need in our lives. We know what types of food we need to eat. We know we need to exercise. We know we need to go to work and make money or have a business to make money. There are things that we know, but many times we don't put the time and effort into understanding who the people are that need to be in our lives. And that can be a very difficult decision and action to take when it's time to step away from someone, because it may be people that we feel an obligation to. Many times family, family above everything. And some people get so caught up in that they allow family, their blood, to be a source of stress for them and disruption in their life. And that should not be the case. So we have to be mindful of that. Know yourself. What do you need? What do you appreciate? What do you enjoy? And figure out who those people that are going to help enhance your life and not take away from it and make it hard to appreciate and enjoy. So thank you for that, Mama B. I'm happy that you have that figured out. So let's try Amanda again. Let's see if I won't say Fido because I don't know the dog's name. Let's see if Amanda's ready. Okay, Amanda isn't ready yet. So let's go over to Patriot. Patriot, how are you today?
So I have to turn off my fan because I don't want the noise. Hi, I'm Tim Brenda Donika. I'm people in this space. So I wrote down some things that I want to say. So I stutter, so I'll just start here. So I had conflict with 2 people in a small group of people. When I went to try to resolve the conflict, it blew up. It took a while to resolve the situation with several of the people, and some of the relationships aren't the same. Even though I care for the people. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to say.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to tell you, just take a deep breath and don't worry about the time, that you're okay, and just relax. But you already finished the thought, so because I didn't want you to put that extra pressure on yourself.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Yes, and thank you for sharing that, for sharing the example that, the experience you had, because it can be so many, and you just never know what's going to happen, who it's going to happen with, and we have to be willing to make the decisions that are necessary for us to move forward and find the peace that we need in the midst of those conflicts. Because there are some people that you're going to be close to, that conflict is going to arise, and we have to understand the idea of the benefits, the potential benefits of the interpersonal conflict, so that we establish the right perspective, we stop running from it, we stop taking it personally so quickly, and we listen intently to understand. And as Donika's example illustrated, it may not even be a conflict that we're directly a part of. It may be someone else's conflict that we need to become that beacon of light and hope, that we need to become that peacemaker to help them resolve it. And as Aura said, she was a peacekeeper, but also understanding the difference that sometimes being that peacekeeper, we're doing it from a perspective that doesn't actually benefit us the way that we need to, because peacekeeping can potentially be enabling because we don't want to confront or deal with the conflict that's inevitable if we actually say what we're really feeling. And we want to make sure we do that. You need to say what you're feeling, because if not, at some point in time, your true feelings will come out. So it's better to do it in a controlled environment and in a manner that you can manage your emotions a lot more calmly to have those conversations then than when you've gotten to a point where you hit a wall and now it's like an animal backed into a corner and now you feel like you have to fight your way out, and you don't want it to be that way. Conflict doesn't have to be that way in our interpersonal relationships. So thank you, Sarah, for sharing that with us. So let's go now over to Lowan. Hey, Lowan, how are you today or this
Hi,
morning?
team. Yeah, evening from my side.
Right.
Hi, team. Hi, Donika, Brenda, Mama B. Hi, everyone. Yes, this is very good topic, and actually, I just get into a interpersonal conflict recently as well, and so that's I learned a lot of things. In I think the most important things is that when we work in a team or in any relationship, there will be different opinion from the other members. So we need to we have to accept that the fact that yeah people might have different idea from us, and we just discuss about it, but without the emotion. That means we have to control our emotion, and when we let the emotion control us, so that we turn into the conflict. And so to avoid that, yeah, the know how to control our emotion is very important. And so to know how that to control that, we need to get the self-reflection after that to understand what is the trigger, why we didn't accept the idea of the person, why we get angry, or yeah we let it go into the wrong direction. So the self-reflection is very important for me. After the conflict, I need to reflect it on myself and understand, because when I get over the emotion get over me, I lack of the listening, so we cannot understand each other. So it's very then pity for that. And so if we get the listen, we can have the mutual understanding, and I think that will help as well to avoid the conflict. And this is what I learned recently from my own experience, and I want to share. Thank you for letting me speak.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. Self-reflection, we have to do it. We have to self-reflect. And when I have a situation with someone or an interaction, I won't even call it a situation, but just an exchange. I often replay the interaction back in my head when it's over. And my mind is just automatically does that because I'm trying to identify, are there any moments where there was the possibility or the potential for someone to misunderstand something I said? And if I feel like I can identify a way they may have potentially misunderstood me, I go back and correct it, or I go back to make sure that it was clear. And it could be overdoing it in some people's minds, but this is one of the things I do to help manage that and minimize the potential for conflict, because when people's minds are swirling around in life, and it may not have been the type of interaction that was clear enough or long enough to provide the type of understanding they may have needed, it's easy and people will form conclusions, and they won't always ask questions to get clarity. So they will form an opinion or draw conclusions without having all the context that's important. So that self-reflection is awesome, Luan, and also understanding the why. And if you just ask yourself why, we can avoid a lot of things. And that's how we're going to get to that point of understanding, so that we can be more empathetic to what people may be going through why they may have said what they said, the way they said it, and why they may have approached you with that attitude and mindset. But understanding why. And those are both very critical in order for us to not just approach the conflict, but to manage it and turn it into an opportunity, because it comes to you as an opportunity. It's a matter of, are you willing to accept the opportunity and capitalize on that opportunity to allow it to become something that's valuable and beneficial to both you and the person that you may have had the conflict with. So thank you for sharing that. So let's go now. Oh, Brenda, I see Brenda's hand up. Brenda, go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to give a synopsis of information that I have gathered thus far. Jesus, is your name by any chance pronounced Jesus? I was just curious to that.
It's
Moving.
spelled either or, depending on whether you're speaking in English or in Spanish.
Okay, I'll say it in Spanish if you don't mind. So, builder, gosh darn it, what I write? Oh my word. Gosh darn it. Okay, I can't read my own writing. I will say, Tim, my honeymoon is over with you. I love you. I love you. I love you. But the honeymoon is over. Let's see. And there are 5 food groups. Okay. Sometimes we just don't want to resolve the conflict. We just don't want to. And I wanted to throw out Sarah Patriot. You are killing it in these spaces. I love you. I'm so proud of you. On with the show. Let's see. Let's see. Gosh darn it. I need to do a better job of grouping this together. Okay, Aura, I heard all of your words. Oh my gosh. I feel you. I too had a breakdown, my dear. They hauled me off. And well, actually it was between my husband and I, and he says, I'm not going anywhere. And so the police took me away. I know that sounds crazy, right? But believe me, it's not documented anywhere. Trust me. Let's see. Okay. You guys, I can't read my writing, so I need to do a better job of grouping this together. But the bottom line, let's continue. We're doing good. Let's move on.
And that we will do. Thank you for adding that in there, Brenda, and that extra layer of support and encouragement for the others. And it's very it's usually very helpful when we know we aren't the only one that experiences something. And it allows us to feel a lot more comfortable being who we are, even though we should be comfortable with who we are. And it's easy for someone to say that when we don't share some of the struggles or some of the misunderstandings that people go through in life. It's easy to say it. So I try to be careful and mindful of what I say and how I say it so that it doesn't come across as though I'm being dismissive or insensitive to what other people may be experiencing, because it's different. We just don't know. And I put into perspective, even thinking about some of the natural disasters, and this is just something for you to think about. When we see a natural disaster on television, and we know they need food and water, we know they need some place safe to live, but we don't think about a lot of the nuances. We don't think about the medication that they need to have. We don't think about some of the personal care that needs to be dealt with in those moments of distress when they've lost a lot of resources. So there's so many underlying details that just go above our heads. They go over our heads where we don't understand what someone experiencing or the depth of their experience. And when we take time to listen, to be more intent to understand, but also as confident and effective communicators, when we share the things that are essential for people to understand, it makes it easier for them to figure out how they can be of more help to us, and make it easy for them to understand. So thank you, Brenda, for sharing that. And what we'll do is we will see if Amanda is ready. So we'll go to Amanda. And what I want to do after Amanda, because I don't see any more hands, I want to see if we do some challenges So I'm going to open the door to do some challenges today, and I'll do the first one today so that people can get to see how they work. But just a reminder, inside the chat bubble or the chubble, there's a document that explains how the challenges work so that you can have an understanding when you come up to do a challenge, what's going to happen. And if you want to do one of the scripts or the tongue twisters, those are on the website, and that link is posted in there as well. So let's go now to Amanda.
I don't know where to start.
Well, we can start with how potential benefits, how you have learned or grown from a conflict in your life.
Yeah, my mind has been taking notes while I was with Mr. Socks and giving him treats and whatnot. First of all, I can't remember the reason why, but I want to thank Donica for what she said. That was absolutely spot on. You said it better than I thought it. I do have a challenge. I can give a challenge. You'll have to bear with me. I've been up all night again. So, empathy, awareness, compassion. You think of the opposite to that. That's called a narcissist. And I'm not going down the negative path, but I had a community. I was a Ukraine space host. I had awesome people as my Twitter friends. Then I had a bunch of TIAs, and I didn't understand. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. My doctor missed it. So I didn't realize why I was getting emotional and over passionate. I'm not playing excuses. You know, I've been talking to my doctor about this to find out, well, why is this happening? Why is that happening? But, you know, you guys are all new people. And I want to thank the ones that actually did give me the time and let me speak and listen. And all the others that just judged and blocked, give people a second chance. Hear them out. Don't go on rumors. If you're a host, don't listen to what's messaged to you, because I had that happen the other day. This is a social, I'm not being sarcastic. I just think it's funny. Social media, where groups and communities can come together either for fun chats or educational spaces, or like Tim does, or like I'm doing on Monday, which you're all invited to, mind you. I'll be doing the Stop the Doxing, Stop the Hate campaign. It's all in the comments. I'm not going to broadcast it over your space, Tim. It's not fair, but I'd like you to come. There is a reason why I'm doing this. I am not doing it for me. I've moved on, even though I still am constantly being doxxed 7 months after the fact. It just won't quit. And I suppose I'm the best target because I am disabled, I have cancer, I am alone, I am isolated, and that's the type of person people go for. It's the fact that I stick up for people, I do the right thing, but to narcissists, it's not. And it's just a case of you can't break me. It doesn't matter what I'm going through personally, whether it's my health or my dad's just abandoned me. I keep going because it keeps my memory going. It helps repair the brain, the thinking, the concentration, the speaking to you guys. I am inviting you to join another community pinned to my profile. Doxing and treating people like dirt on social media. Shut up, socks. There's nobody there. Oh God, hold on.
So Amanda, so what I will say as I listen. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So I want to commend you for continuing to stand for yourself, continuing to hang in there and not allow yourself to be shaken or moved by people's behaviors, the things that they say and do. And as we think about conflict, some of this conflict will come to us that at times we may not deserve, and people will bring it our way. And it's important to be clear as to who you are. And when you're comfortable about who you are, when you're comfortable about what you represent, what it is that you're trying to accomplish, then other people's opinions don't matter about you. And that's a beautiful place to be. And you will be able to walk away from any group, any community, any person that doesn't accept or embrace who you are when you know that what you're doing has good intentions and that you're trying to make a difference for someone or the world. And everyone won't get it. And we, all of us, we have to be okay with the fact that not everyone is going to appreciate who we are or what we bring to the table. And we have to be able to walk away and love them from a distance or just move on, whether it's with love or not. Sometimes you just have to separate yourself from people, especially if they're doing things that cause us harm. And just also be mindful that when we are in certain situations, we have to realize that just like we have to make sure that we understand what we want and need and that people won't always embrace us, we have to also understand that we may not be what they need, so we just don't fit for them. So they don't want us around. And it I know it sounds like I'm saying the same thing, but I'm not, because on one hand, you're thinking about it from your perspective, but then you also have to think about it from their perspective as well, as to why they may respond or behave towards you a certain way is because they're thinking about what they need and you don't fit what they need in their life. So they push back or they pull away or they take an unhealthy approach to remove you from their life because they don't understand how to do it in a productive or caring way, or they don't have the courage to do it that way because they're worried about what other people may think about them. And this is something that I've been pondering about, a conversation that I think I want to have, with the community, because it happens a lot where we get caught up with what other people are thinking, and it can really be a drag on us. It can really weigh heavy on us as individuals if we get caught up in that and not get comfortable with ourselves enough that it's okay if I have to walk by myself when no one else will, that it's okay, because you're going to be okay. Eventually, you're going to pass another group of people and you get another opportunity to find those who are going to love you and appreciate you for who you are. So I want to say thank you for that, Amanda. And keep doing what you feel like you need to do. At the end of the day, no one can take that away from you.
I'm sorry about that interruption. I don't know what he heard. The little shit. He was fast asleep on my feet.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I was saying, but yeah, I'll be happy to see you on Monday and get this community growing if possible, because
Well,
I'm passionate about it.
but see,
And
Amanda, so I don't want to go down that path where because I know you said earlier you weren't going to push your
no, I
space
just
in
would
here,
like
but
to
we're
see.
still
I'd like to see you there, Tim, because you've got some good opinions, and I
got
know
it.
there's a lot of people here that have a lot of opinions. So if you're free, and have a nice weekend.
Okay, thank you, and keep doing what you do. Follow your heart, no matter what anyone else thinks. That's the important thing. Thank you, Amanda. So I see Brenda's hand. So we're going to go to Brenda and then Ingrid. And I'll get this situated here because the hands weren't all showing up on my screen. They just all popped up all of a sudden. It even said that there was a third co-host up here and someone that I don't even see in the space. So very interesting today. But Brenda, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to say a funny. Amanda's dog knew when that alarm was over. Did you hear it? The dog, was right on time. And I forgot to say in the first half that you guys, I worked my whole CNA career with people that I didn't like. And guess what? They never knew it.
Look at that. Sometimes you have to show constraint. You can either choose the covert approach and just not really care about them, or you can approach the conflict and share what you're feeling and see if you can't resolve it so you can actually have peace when you're around them. And that's where we always have a choice. It's an opportunity, because she was having internal conflict as well as interpersonal conflict, because there had to be something going on between her and the coworkers to create this internal conflict that she was having. So think about that, everyone. Set yourself free. Give yourself the peace that you need so that you can go into an environment and be okay. And if they don't want to resolve it, you've done your part and you can walk away in peace and not have to have interactions with them, because that's a bad place to be. And years ago, there was a situation where someone did something, and it had to do with a check, one of my checks. And you just don't mess around with people's money. and they did something with my check, took some money out of my check, and they pretended they didn't know why it happened, and just all these things. And I heard some information and heard some comments that made me feel like, or realize that, you know what? I've been lied to. I have been bamboozled in this situation. And because of who they were, it put me in this position where it just created this distrust that I just didn't want to have any interactions with them. And just seeing a couple of other things, it put me in a place where for quite some time, I just completely withdrew and I had no words for them. I had no words, none. And it got to a point where after a few days, after a little bit of time, it began to feel like there was hate stirring up inside of me for them. And that isn't who I am, my character. But this is why we want to try to resolve conflicts as much as possible so that it doesn't fester and become something that it doesn't need to be. And this intense disdain that I felt inside was only hurting me because the person didn't know, because I wasn't having any communication with them. So I got to a place where, and it was over the course of about 3 days, I realized that that isn't where I wanted to be. I needed to deal with this internal conflict that I was having. So I prayed intensely to God. I had to pray intensely for about 3 days for God to help me understand that I need to let go. I've got to let go of this because I'm the one carrying the burden, not that person. And after I did that, once the connection and the relationship was reestablished after these 3 intense days of prayer to not let me walk around feeling hate build up, I became like the best friend to this person in the office. It was like whatever I wanted, it was always, well, what do you think? What would you like to do? What would you like to eat type thing. So I became the one that had the influence in that relationship and that environment. But it was because, as Lawan said, that self-reflection, trying to understand why, and being willing to have a different perspective about the conflict so that it could get resolved, because I was the only one that was hurting, not them, just me. So I just wanted to throw that in there as perspective. Donique, I see your hand, and then we'll go to Ingrid, and then Billo.
I just want to say something about you, Tim. You always have that, you know, awareness and so connected with God and the truth. And your heart is so good, you don't get influenced. I send you something in the back channel, and you continue to speak the word of God. You continue to trust your heart, and you're reflected to the things. I so much admire you and honor you for what you did right now. You always have been so true to yourself. And this was a teachable moment for me. And I felt like God was speaking to me too. Reflect, reflect, reflect. And that self-reflection, it took me to the moment. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry. While I was listening to everybody in here, who are we to judge people? We are we know to give space to people that are suffering, and they just want a space, a community when they feel heard, valued, and respected. Because you have 10,000 followers, 20,000 followers, a million followers, that doesn't make you better than anybody else. And sometime, all we have to do, throw some hearts, throw some 100%, because it can change life. The words can heal and the words can kill. So be present, be kind, be nice. And Tim Brown, you are really a child of God. You bring so much love and light and healing, and speak from your heart. So if anybody have any doubt about Tim Brown, I've been with this man for the past 2 years, hosting in my space and co-hosting, and here co-hosting and hosting. And when I make a phone call, is nothing different from what he is in here. So thank you for being a great man, a man of God, a man of truth, and always seeing people for who they are without judgment, just acceptance and love. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Donika. And I'm happy to know that it shows, because that's who I am, and I don't ever try to impose what I believe on people, while I will share it, because sometimes it's important for everyone to understand my position and why I do the things that I do. And as Donika said, my love for God is real. And there is no one in this space, this community, or anywhere that will lead me to do something that compromises my relationship with God. And I understand how we all have those moments. I mean, I've had my moments where I wasn't understood. So I know what it feels like. And this is part of us being confident and effective communicators, being able to understand those moments, looking for the opportunity, asking the why. And it even goes back to what Jesus was saying about being on the spectrum. And there's just so many different experiences that people have that cause them to present themselves a little differently from what we typically see. And when it's outside of the norm of our environments, we tend to look at it as strange, or we tend to be afraid of it. And we don't treat them very well. And see, I'm not afraid of anyone coming into this space. And this is why when we talked about hosting your own spaces, when you think about trolls or anyone that may come into your space, I'm not afraid of them, because all I have to do is hit the button and say, remove the microphone, and they'll be a listener. And I don't kick them out, because I don't want them to miss an opportunity to find a reason to change. Because as they become a listener, they may hear something that changes their approach. And the next space they go to, they may not behave the same way. So I don't kick them out. I don't ever kick someone out of the space, because I'm not afraid of them. And this is how we become the examples that people need to see, when we demonstrate the behaviors that are reflective of who we are and what we say we are. We're leaders. All of you are leaders. And I do this space, have these topics, because I want you to be able to embrace that. And I want you to understand how to demonstrate that. And I point out my faith, my belief, so that you understand why I do it, and that the foundation of everything that I talk about comes through the word of God. That's the foundation of everything you see me do, everything you hear me say. And if I don't see it in the word of God, you don't hear me talking about it. You don't see me doing it, because that's my foundation. But I don't impose that on you. That's your choice. And if you want to learn more, you know that I'm always here to share that. So, Donika, I really do appreciate you acknowledging that and sharing that with everyone, because that's very important to me. And if you look up my name, Timothy, it means one who loves God or honors God. That's what my name means. So, and I really do. That's who I am. That's why I am. And you all can thank God that I'm here doing this space if you appreciate it, because that's the reason that I do it. God said to do it. So we'll go now over to, let's see, I think Ahmad made it back. Well, Ahmad, Ingrid, we'll go to Ingrid, then we'll go to Ahmad, because I know Ahmad was having some connection issues. Ingrid, go ahead. How are you today?
Hi, Tim. Hi, Donika. Hi, Brenda. But I want to make sure that Brenda and Donika could hear me because I wasn't able to hear them. And I didn't know how soon, and I didn't want to go off and then not be able to come back in. But I wanted to say hello to everyone. And oh my God, Tim, I must say today's conversation today has hit me home big time yesterday. And my cousin is here with us, Mecho, and talking about not allowing someone to come back to one another and speak what's going on and assuming or listening to others that have bad intentions and allowing, in our case, 7 years to just disappear. And being able to recapture it yesterday like it never left. Yes, you have, when you have those feelings, go for it, speak it out. Not all the time you might get the reaction you expect, but it frees you from saying what you need to say. And in most cases, trust me, in most cases, it's accepted and the unity begins again because there's always this sort of misunderstanding. I'm telling you guys, I am feeling it. 67 years old, I'm still learning. And it you really have to let it go and let it go. And you'll be surprised there'll be someone there to hold your hands. And Tim, you speak of God all the time. Spiritually, God is within me. I find some people, when you speak of God, they feel offended in some way. And my attitude is I just treat it as spiritual. I have someone that talks to me. I do give people the benefit of the doubt and I do look in the best, whatever best they have. I look at that first. And hopefully with that, it grows because once they're around me, they see who I am and then they grow with me. If they don't, then we move on. But please don't let any negativity come between you and anyone that you care about. Speak it out. If it's real, then they go their way, you go yours. If it was fake, someone trying to destroy you for no reason, at least you spoke out. So sorry about that. I dropped my phone. I and you just need to share that because once you do, you will be free and you will feel so much better. And Rachel, who I now call Mercy, like I called her mom, I love you. And thank you for coming to this space and sharing this space with us. And I know it's also going to help you. And I know we're going to bring so many of the loved ones with us that lost so much. But guess what? We're capturing it all. And thank you, Tim, for allowing me to rant because I'm sure I went longer than I needed to. But this space, I invite people all the time because this space touches the heart, touches the soul. And for those that don't believe, just believe there's something out there that could touch your soul too and make you a better human. Thank you guys.
Mm. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Ingrid. And I appreciate you sharing that and allowing people to feel what you are feeling. And it's just a great demonstration of the importance of us understanding and embracing the potential benefits of that interpersonal conflict that we have, because it opens the door for opportunity to understand what's going on, to understand the why, to hear the message and not just the words, but then to also feel someone's heart so you can get to a place where you're able to reconnect after 7 years, where it may have broken for some reason. And remember that I said that we have to understand that sometimes someone isn't suitable for a particular season in our lives. And we have to leave the door open because we may not be ready for it, or they may not, but leave the door open because you never know what the change or transformation is going to be or how valuable that relationship is going to be for you in the future. So don't close the door shut so tightly that there's no room for someone to come back. Go ahead, Ingrid.
Much. This the season, I like you put it. It's almost like there is someone blocking the way, and you have to be able to recognize that. So if you find that you get information from a third source, and you're not dealing with the main source, always go back to the main source. Is what I'm trying to say here. That is what I'm learning. Whenever I feel something, I don't go to somebody else. Oh, I'm feeling this about that other person. No, I go to the person and let them know. And then you will know if they're the person for the season. And then you just don't shut the door. You just move on and maybe come back and look at it again. But that's all I just wanted to say. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to be willing to revisit. It's just like plans. When you create a plan, you have that development phase of the plan. You have your goals, your objectives, but you also have the portion of the plan where you will review it to monitor, review and monitor the plan to see if it's actually working. And you may have to go back and make adjustments at some part of your plan so that you can stay on track to get to where you're actually trying to go. And I will say this, to what Ingrid mentioned about, potentially some people getting offended when someone shares their faith. But I offer no disrespect to anything that anyone believes, but at the same time, I'm not ashamed of what I believe either. And I think it's important. And I tell people, just make sure you believe in something. Even if you don't believe what I believe, because I can't force you to, and nor would I try, but believe in something that you can stand firm on, that when things get difficult, when you get confused, you have something that you can rely on, that can be your source of strength, that can be your guiding light, that keeps you grounded and focused and doing the right thing. And that's why for me, it's the Bible, because it doesn't change. And it's easy for me to explain to people. But yeah, so thank you again, Ingrid. Thank you for that. And I felt your heart in what you shared. So I really appreciate that. So let's go now over to, and before I do, I want to see, Donika or Brenda, you want to say anything? Because I know what Ingrid did was heavy, and I know a lot of times that can touch your heart. So I want to go ahead, Donika.
Ingrid, I love you. You know that, sister. And I love how vocal and honest you are here, or whenever we are in the group chat and having conversation, is always this uniqueness about you. I can feel your laughter. I can feel your pain. I can feel the healing that come from speaking the truth and accepting what happened. So for you coming in here and sharing your story is another testimony. And when you love something and when you keep your heart open, no matter of what is, you go and do that inventory. You go and revisit the places and people that matter in your life. Even they teach you a lesson or you teach them a lesson. But when is kindness, when is generosity, and when is love, that is the growth and that is evolving, because we all need to learn and evolve, and never be afraid to say no or tell people that this is interfering with my energy, with my judgment, and I don't want to be, part of that conversation. And that is why I talk to Tim too. Sometime when you allow people to give their opinion, you get influenced. But when you listen to your heart and you make your own judgment and what God put in your heart, it is very easy to forgive yourself, forgive, work again. Even if you go back and work this relationship, or if you are easy with that and let go with peace and serenity in your heart. I'm glad that things are working out for you, but I'm super proud that you came and share with us this teachable moment. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Donika. Brenda, go ahead.
Ingrid, I heard your story. I'll bet so many of us have one similar. I did not speak to my sister for 7 years. It was so emotional. Um, I'll bet there's just so much more behind this. I just love that you shared that. And I really feel you. I totally feel you. And I'm so happy for you. I'm very happy for you.
Totally agree. Totally agree with both of you. So we love you, Ingrid. We appreciate you. So I'm pretty sure Mama B wants to chime in to what Ingrid shared as well.
Not necessarily, but
Well, no
maybe.
pressure.
Yeah, I'll just throw this in because I'm listening, and oh my gosh, first of all, Ingrid, we love you so much. And so I feel you, my sister. I did. I felt you all the way through. So yeah, I just want to say, not because of Ingrid, but just generally, that there is a difference between conflict and strife. And I just wanted to make sure that um, sometimes when we talk about conflict, some of us might think of strife. And strife is long term and has bitterness to it and all of that. And so when a relationship is characterized by strife, that is a relationship that I was talking about earlier that I just cut myself out, because that is a relationship that whose expiration date has come and gone. But conflict, which is what you're talking about, Tim, is more temporary. And so just to make that clarification, so that especially some of us who are not English speakers, we might be thinking of strife instead of conflict. Thank you, Tim.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mama B. And that matters. The words matter. And this is why I stress that everyone, when you find yourself in a conversation, especially if it feels like a debate, that you get a baseline of understanding. If the topic of discussion is conflict, ask the person, what do you mean by conflict? Before you go debating about something and you have two totally different perspectives about what conflict means. So at least you're debating about the same thing. Because if you're debating about apples and they're debating about oranges, you'll never meet in the middle because you have two completely different perspectives. So that baseline of understanding is very important. And that's why I made it a point to read that definition at the beginning so that you could understand the conflict perspective that we were approaching this from, because I know that makes a difference. And there's always someone that's thinking, okay, well, what about this? So I wanted to be as clear as possible so you understood what we were focusing on, and even the interpersonal aspect of it, not just conflict in general, but interpersonal conflict, because they change. The dynamics can vary to a degree in terms of how much you're willing to put into it, how much you're willing to give, how much you even care about resolving those conflicts. So it matters depending on where it is and how it's happening. But to Mama B's point, strife, no time for it. Just let's move on. And as I say now, is we will agree to have different opinions, and we can we can end it and go our separate ways if we need to, or we can discuss something else. But I don't want to agree to disagree with you. I want to agree to have different opinions. We agree that we have different opinions or different perspectives about this, and that in my mind and in my heart, that allows it to remain peaceful without saying that we walk away in disagreement. Because if we agree to disagree, that means that we've created a barrier between us. Even though it might be a small one, there's still the characterization of a barrier that we disagree, but we agree that we're going to have different opinions. That's my perspective and take on it, though. Go ahead, Donika, and then we'll go to Ahmad and then Billo.
Well, I want to welcome my baby sister Bobby Beaker in here. And she is one person that can challenge with honesty and she never want conflict with anybody. When it's conflict, she become quiet, but she hosts spaces just like you. Last Saturday, I don't know how many people were there. The energy and environment on that space is so loving, so welcoming. She always have a joke, but always make people highlight all their skills, all their talents. She want everybody to get along, but she help people. I heard so many testimony of people saying, thank you for helping me, thank you for giving me that helping hand, and they got come back in the community and they want to give. So I'm so proud of her, and for being the baby sister. She keeps me and my other sister on our toes, always speak the truth, always so kind and generous. And I don't think she get all the credits, or if she knows, she gets so much credit and love from people. So you are my shining star, you are my little sister, and I love you.
Awesome. Yes, Bobby is definitely a bundle of joy, and she brightens the room when she shows up. And yeah, so we're glad Bobby was able to make it. I was speaking to Bobby and accidentally invited her to speak, but I know she's getting ready for her space soon, which she hosts on Saturdays as well. But hello, Bobby. Always great to see you. So it's 1 o'clock, everyone. So it's 1:01. We close at 1:30. And what I'll do is I see 6 hands that are up. So 6 hands, 2 minutes, that means 12 minutes. So when we say 1:15, we should be through the hands, because what I'm going to do is limit what I'm saying in between so we can get to the time that we're trying to meet. So let's go over now to Billo. Billo, yes, sir. Great to see you.
Okay, today I think we are out of time, and I just want to try a challenge today. Yeah.
Okay, well, I if we get through the hands fast enough, we will, but we'll see. We'll
Okay.
see if we get through it.
I'll wait for the challenge.
Okay, sounds like a plan, sir. So let's go now to Sumtu Chukwu. How are you, sir? Great to see you.
Hi, team. Hi, Mama B. Hello, everyone. It's a beautiful evening down here in Nigeria with cool evening breeze. So it always feels good to join the space on Saturdays where one gets to be transformed, you know. So thank you, team, so much for this amazing topic. I mean, it's one I'm currently undergoing transformation in. So I'll take it from a personal, practical perspective. So before now though, I run away from conflict. I run away from conflict because I don't like arguments. Like I don't like arguments or probably standing there in the conflict to say what I want to say and then end up saying something out of emotions that might hurt the other person. So, but when I do run away from conflicts, I end up having this bottled up feelings inside of me that can spoil the mood of the day for me. So, it's something that I've been struggling with, but currently I'm making improvements in that regards. So I must have to give credit to my girlfriend. She's amazing. I mean, she has been really instrumental towards my improvement in this regards. So she would always say to me, you don't have to run away from conflicts all the time. Stand and resolve it if you can. If you can't, freely and respectively express your opinions about it and then let go. So I think knowing how to control your emotions when it comes to interpersonal conflict is very important because uh, you always try to listen intently. But me, before now, I listen to respond. I listen to counter. I'll be like, no, what you're saying is not true. This is my stance on this, and this is what I said. And then before you know what's up, it will heighten the argument the more. So, but I discovered that when I get to listen, not to respond, but to know the reason why this person said this or the reason behind this person's actions, I get to always maintain my cool. I get to see myself improving in the way I handle conflicts with people. And that has really been of help to me because instead of me seeing myself fleeing from conflict or expressing myself out of emotions and then saying things that might be hurtful to the person, in the midst of conflict, I keep my cool and then express myself freely and respectively. And then it dies there. I don't go about thinking about it or, oh, I could have done this or why did this person say this or that. So thank you
Right.
so much, Tim, for this. I really appreciate. Thank you, everyone. I'm done.
Absolutely. And thank you. And I'm sure, I hope your girlfriend was able to hear you say that. You told us you give her credit, and I hope you tell her that you give her
Please,
credit for that.
I'm just blessed by God. I'm just blessed by God to have her in my life. Honestly, she has been really amazing. She has really been amazing. If we have agreement, if you have disagreements, I'll just flee from the conflict. She no, 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 no. You don't have to run away all the time. No, I want to hear what you have to say. You must have to express yourself. You must have to express yourself in this. So whenever I'm confronted with arguments or confronted with conflict with someone, two
But
things
Sum
come to
Tu
my mind. I'll
Chukwu,
be like, no, my
wait a
girlfriend will be
minute.
like, no, don't fight,
Sum
don't
Tu
fight.
Chukwu. So what?
Yeah, yeah.
So let me. I love what you shared. Now, forgive me for having to jump in now, but I know we're on the tail end, so I want to get to the other people that have their
Okay,
hands
it's
up before
fine.
we close. But I love what you shared. But make sure you tell your girlfriend that you appreciate
I'll
her.
sure.
Yes, do that.
I'll sure do that. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, yes, sir. And those bottled up feelings that he mentioned, if you've ever had a soda bottle, one of those ones that's carbonated, and you shake it, and then you open it right away, and it just explodes everywhere. And that's what happens with those bottled up emotions if we aren't willing to address the conflict in a timely manner. So it's all about timing. The timing matters. Sometimes you need to walk away from the conflict so that you're able to calm down and allow the pressure that's built up inside to subside so that you can open the conversation up smoothly and productively. So be mindful of that as well. But thank you, Sum Tu Chukwu. So let's go now over to, so Nino had to go. He's at work. So I know Abubakar was up, and Abubakar's connection is bothering him again. If I could start a cable company or internet service, I would definitely do it because Abubakar is one of those that has to work so hard to try to get connected in the spaces. But let's go over now to Ahmad. I don't think we got to Ahmad yet. So Ahmad, let's hear from you, sir. How are you today?
Thanks, Steve. Thanks. I'm doing fine. Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Sorry, I was having a network issue. But as always, thank you always for hosting prophetic spaces. Hello, everyone. Good evening, Brenda, Luan, Mama B, to other speakers. So I was actually having this thought this evening. I was actually appreciating a scenario that happened that led to my resignation in my former job. But of course, it has it took a personal.
You muted yourself, Ahmad, accidentally. I think that's what happened. Could be the connection. Okay.
Oh, I thought you were the one that muted me. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
So I was saying it took a personal. I benefited from a personal conflict with my former boss. It took that conflict for me to actually realize that no, I actually need to get my own brand, get my own media company, and do my own thing instead of helping someone else build his own vision. And it also took that personal conflict for me to be realized that all along I was actually being used. So I was actually having that thought this evening, and then your space just pops up. I'll be like, oh, that's Uncle Tim, that's Coach Tim. Coach Tim would always with always that vision to help me translate what I'm actually trying to put together. So as usual, thank you always for creating beautiful spaces. Thank you for coaching me personally. Thank you for making Twitter a beautiful place for me. So it's always love and appreciation and gratitude for each and every one of you. So bless up. Thank you very much. God bless. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Ahmad. We appreciate that. And I love hearing people taking action when things are happening and the application of what we discuss and what we practice. No matter how much information I give, we have to apply it. And that's when the rubber hits the road. And when you see the results in your life, the transformation that takes place is the application. So I'm happy you were able to make some decisions for yourself and find a better situation. And it can be uncomfortable making a decision like that to leave a position that you already have to go off and do something on your own when you don't really know what the outcome is going to be. That takes courage, but you did it. So kudos to you. And I pray that you be blessed beyond measure as you go forward and do that. So let's go now over to, let's see if Abubakar is able to speak now. I see Abubakar back, and then we'll go to Phantom. Abubakar, how are you, sir?
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Nigerian time. I'm fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I always have these technical issues most of the time, sometimes when trying to speak. Uh, Let me say I will have to extend my greetings to Donika, Brenda, Mama B, and Ingrid and everyone here listening. Well, I just have to add some few things when it comes to interpersonal conflicts. There is in the beginning of the space, there is this story Donika gave of a student in the class, and sharing your in-depth experience or your feelings is unmatched actually, because you tend to unburden yourself with something that has been there deep down disturbing you. So you feel unburdened by something. You feel like a knot has been, loosed, that has been there, you know, itching you. So it has happened to me with one of a friend who, who I respected much while in my university days. He shared some of his life experiences, though he had some problems at school. So and till now he still reaches out to me to talk to me because he's still looking up to me that okay, this is someone, he saw something different in me. For someone to share out his life experiences or problems with you matters a lot. And we need to be part of people that, comfort those that bring problems to us, to show them that we care and give them the same things. That's just what I want to share. So thank you very much for everything. And the last time I'm a team, you talked about something. There is no problem whenever I'm away and you see I'm away. There's no problem asking where I have been and the rest. It's more of adding value to ourselves. It's nothing less of what you've taught us and the value you've added to us. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. I yield the mic.
Absolutely. Thank you for adding that and sharing that. That we sometimes we have to be available for other people that may need us. It can't always be about us. Sometimes we have to be willing to take the hit, as they say, take one for the team to be able to benefit other people. And many of you already do it and don't realize it. But being intentional about it is a different perspective. It creates a different mindset when you're willing to take it for someone else and deny yourself for someone else's benefit. And it's a beautiful thing when we do it the right way and we do it with balance. And this isn't to enable someone. This is to empower someone when they're in a position where they actually need the help and they need someone to help them understand the how of what's going on or the why of those circumstances. So Abubakar, thank you, sir. And I appreciate you continuing to show up and push through the connection challenges that you have to face when you're trying to speak. But we're always glad to have you, and look forward to whenever you're able to make it. So thank you for that, sir. So let's go over to Phantom. Phantom, how are you, sir? Can anyone hear Phantom?
Nope.
Okay. So we don't hear you, Phantom. If you drop down and come back up, we'll bring you back up. And as you're doing that, what I'll do is I'll go to Roseanne, and then after Roseanne, we'll go to you, Phantom, once you drop down and come back up. So Roseanne, how are you, ma'am? Great to see you. Welcome to the space. And what
Hi.
are
Thank
okay.
you, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Good. I'm glad to be here. I've been listening for a while. I'd like to thank Ingrid for inviting me here a while ago, so I've been coming since then. Um, and what Ingrid said today has really, really, really touched me. I do a lot of speaking, but it's mostly for political things in other groups that I belong to, organizations that I work with. But I learned a lot from those. I took a relational communications course, and um, what I learned from there for my personal life was I have I have a couple daughters, but my oldest daughter and I stopped talking a long time ago, and I never knew why. I couldn't get out of her why. I mean, we went to all kinds of family gatherings together, Christmas, Thanksgiving. We were all together, and we were very cordial to each other. Said hi, how you doing? But that was it. No real conversations. Um, and finally, I called her. She didn't answer, but I left a message. It was very important to call me back, and she finally did. And I just said to her, I said, "Look." I don't know why you don't talk to me. The least you can do is call me, tell me why. Let's talk about this. If I don't know why, then we can't solve anything. The most important thing for us to talk about it, for you to let me know why you don't talk to me, and maybe we can work this out. And so finally she did call me, we talked about it. I listened to her because one thing I learned is the most important thing is to listen to the person that is speaking to you. Listen, understand what they're saying, and give them that chance to speak. And I did, and so I explained, my situation to her, and what was going on and what had happened that she was, concerned about. And when she went back and asked the other person that was involved and found out the truth, she called me back and, I mean, was just crying. And ever since then, it's like we have our relationship back. And I am just very happy that we have that back. And, but it took all of that and for me to learn how to actually talk to people, and now I do it without any effort. I used to be an introvert. I am no longer an introvert. So I am so grateful for that. So thank you for letting me speak, Tim.
Thank you for sharing that, Roseanne. And I'm super happy that you and your daughter have figured that out, that you found that place to be able to reconnect and get some understanding. And something that I want to share, and I think this is could be a nugget for us to think about. I remember when you said, and you may not have actually said this, you could have just been thinking this, and this is for all of us to keep in mind, especially when we're trying to reestablish communication and connection with people. When I heard you say that the least you could do is this, is give me a chance to understand. Sometimes those words like that can fuel the fire, to say that the least you can do. Because if she feels, I'm saying she, but and this is for all of us to keep in mind, if the person that we are trying to establish or reestablish the connection with and they feel that they've been offended, for us to put it on them with that language puts them in a defensive posture potentially, where they feel like, well, I'm the one who got my feelings hurt. So why are you telling me it's the least I could do? I've already struggled and suffered through this. So no, the least you could do. So instead of saying that, maybe we consider something along the lines of, please give me an opportunity to understand where I went wrong. Something along those lines, because the words we use matter. The characterization of how we present something has a tremendous impact on someone's willingness to respond and how they will respond in those moments. So that stood out to me when I heard you say it. And again, I know sometimes people will explain things to me, and what they say to me isn't what they said in the actual situation, but my mind's like, wait a minute, did you say that? And they'll say, no, I didn't say that, but I'm just telling you this way. So I just wanted to be mindful of that and give that as a nugget for all of us to try to be mindful of, is the words we say. Make sure that what we say doesn't potentially sound like an attack or blaming them for something, especially if they feel like they've been wrong. Even if they weren't, if they think they have been, we aren't going to get very far if they feel attacked. So thank you for sharing that, Roseanne. And again, I'm so happy that you all have figured it out and you are working through that to be able to move forward. So let's go now to Phantom and then Ingrid. Phantom, how have you been, sir? And everyone, Phantom is a super smart science engineer person, and he's going to make me a navy blue and silver spacesuit at some point in time. Phantom, go ahead. How are you, sir?
Yeah, lucky that you still remember our promise, Tim. I mean, spacesuits are becoming more of a necessity these days, but it's been a while since I've come to the conference speaking space. So, yeah, I think it's been a wonderful, listening in to all these kind of stories and anecdotes. And the main thing that today, you reminded me of was the story of the five blind men and the elephant, right? Like we all have our own perspectives, but, it's about kind of stepping back and trying to look at the big picture, right? We have to kind of be understanding and compassionate, and largely, sometimes I feel that it boils down to our need for somewhat control. So I definitely feel that a lot of interpersonal conflict kind of comes where we might feel that there is a slight loss of control in whatever we are facing with the other person, and it's about kind of working with them, and not by ourselves, because sometimes it's just about, being beyond us, right? As you said, like, don't burn the bridges yet. It's about kind of maintaining that relationship and seeing it flourish into something someday. And I can understand sometimes, withdrawing for, some time, but even then, I think it's better to communicate your way into these conflicts rather than, withdrawing. And I think, as you say, it gives that opportunity for the both of us to address the conflict, and that is the point or the potential for growth for both parties. So it just hit me as you were talking about, how we can empower each other, and that's truly the potential of conflict, right? Like, I don't know if you are right or I'm right, and maybe the universe is right. It's just showing us two different sides of the same coin. So sometimes it's just a head or tails. Maybe over time we get to realize, but it's just such a wonderful thing that our conflict is now coming, bringing us together to a new truth, I would say.
Absolutely, Phantom. And yes, I did remember about the suits. I did not forget. And what you said, I love that you toward the end about the idea of empowering one another, because conflict is an opportunity for us to learn, an opportunity to grow. And we absolutely can empower one another because we get to share or learn a different perspective. And I love the idea of creating this visual about the power of perspectives and knowing that one perspective isn't necessarily wrong and the other is right. Because if you are at your home and you decide to go to the grocery store, there's probably at least 3 different paths you can take to get to the same grocery store from your house. But the path you take is dependent on the time of day, your understanding of the traffic patterns, or what mode or method of transportation you need to get there. So to say that we go left, then right, and then 3 miles ahead isn't wrong for the person, because someone who may typically go right first, you can get there either way. It's just a matter of the perspective. And we empower one another when we listen and are willing to learn from one another, and that we can't try to control everything. We don't get to control what's going on in this lifetime. We do our part, and I leave it to God. I do my best and I let God handle the rest. And I always leave room for God to say, nope. I may form an opinion about something, or I make a decision. If God doesn't give me a clear answer in the moment, then based on my understanding of God's character, I will make a decision and begin to move. But I always pray that He protect me from myself. And if this is not what you want me to do, please don't let it work, because I will ask up front, but it may not always come right away, the answer I need to hear, but He stops it. So we aren't in control. So no matter what I say I'm going to do, I always leave room for God to step in. So for me, I live my life on a plan B basis. A lot of people say their plan B is some alternative approach that they have. But my first thought is the plan B, because I leave room for God to step in with a new plan A in my life. And that's how I move. So that control thing, we really have to work on how we feel we control so much in this world and in our lives, because for my life, I know I don't. So thank you, Phantom. Glad to have you, sir. Donique, I see your hand, and then we'll go to Ingrid and then Caleb. And then we'll
Yeah, I'm
wrap
not
up after that.
taking too much time, but I'm going to share a personal story. And this is based on don't take anybody for granted, and even the your life, because you never know what happened. 3 years ago, I did the vaccine, and it hit me. It blocked all my arteries. And one good night, as I was talking, was my daughter's birthday. I have this, mini stroke, and I have to be rushed in hospital. And the doctor said she need to go through the surgery to unblock all the arteries. And as I'm laid down on the table before the surgery, I prayed to God and I said, oh my God, I didn't have the last time chance, because you never know what's coming out when you are in surgery, to hug my daughter one more time, to solve things that are not solved, to see my sisters one more time. My baby sister Bobby flew that night. I don't know how she came the same night with her son. And all I remember, my sister Bruna crying, please don't leave. Please, you have to come back. Please, Donna, don't do this to me. You came here for fun and to enjoy your summer. And I saw and I was like, it's not my choice and my decision to stay here. But if I have another chance to come back, what do I need to change? And the very first thing was be more calm, more forgiving. Don't take people for granted and say sorry, because you know what? Sometimes people, all they want is that sorry. And don't hesitate to follow them, to follow through and ask for forgiveness, ask for love. Even they don't respond to you, you just do it. And don't let things unseen before you go to sleep. Always close the night with a I love you. Have a great night. And I see you in the morning. And when the morning comes, say, thank you, God, for giving me another chance to go through the conflict, to find a resolution, and to embrace and appreciate people in my life. Life is very, very short. And more anger and bitterness we have is going to affect our health and happiness. And so be happy, be kind, be generous, and just love people that are in your life.
Absolutely. We have to be very mindful of that. We never know when things are going to change. It takes a moment for life to completely shift beyond our control or understanding. So we just do the right things all the time, as often as possible, so we don't have to look back with regret because something happened that we can no longer go back and change or fix. So do the right thing now. Resolve those conflicts. Have the right perspective. Be willing to listen. Don't take it personally. Listen intently to understand and stop running from the conflict. Resolve it as quickly as you can. So, Ingrid, let's go to Ingrid and then Caleb, and then we're going to get out of here.
Okay, Tim, another great space today. And oh my God, today in confidence speaking, we learned how to confidently deal with the conflicts and right away. And one thing we also learned that tends to repeat itself, it's always a third party involved. Get rid of the third party, deal with the conflict direct. And Donika, the love, yes, release it, say what it is, and just, you know, be you. If you like love and you want to be loved, you be you. Don't let anybody and their bitterness and whatever they're going through affect that. Like you guys know me, I try to enjoy as much as I can because yes, life is short. And Tim, you are providing a space. I don't know how many people are in this space today, but this should be definitely a space everyone should listen to. It will benefit every single person, even the trolls that try to troll us or listening in the spaces below to see if they could get some mischief to spread. But yes, this is a space to be shared. And thank you, Tim, for listening to God and doing what you do best. And those that don't believe in God, trust me, yes, you believe in something, and let that something be something. We call it God, and you could call it whatever you want. But yes, thank you, Tim, for all that you do. And let's not forget to invite Tim for some coffee or some cake sometimes and help support this because the stuff that we're learning here, it's great. Let's share the wealth and the knowledge and help those that are helping us. Thank you. And Roseanne, you were the best. Thank you, thank you. You've been coming for so long, and you finally joined the community by speaking and sharing with us. And I am so happy about your daughter. You told me about that, and this brings me, it's like we share something else again. Thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you for everything you do. Just the perspectives you add, the heart that you bring, and the people that you invite. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's go now to Caleb. So Caleb, we will wrap up with you today, sir. How are you? Great to see you.
I'm doing good, Tim, Donika, Brenda. Thank you for having me on the stage. This is wonderful. I'm speaking from my bedroom and with a microphone that Tim actually recommended through his website for just upgrading your gear. So I showed Tim the microphone. I was like, hey, I'm speaking to you from it, upgrading my wardrobe. So potential benefits of interpersonal conflict. A lot has been shared today. And I think of as iron sharpens iron. So one man, one woman, we sharpen one another. When we embrace the blacksmith of life, when the sword goes through the fire and gets shaped and forged in that place, there's a place of conflict with the flames, between metal and flames. And we must embrace those moments of not shying away from the fire. So often in our human instincts is to run from the fire, run from the conflict, run from the uncomfortable place. But we have to push back against the cult of comfort because that's the world system that tries to place itself. You always have to be comfortable. Well, no, we have to get into the uncomfortable places and embrace those conflicts and not run from them, because if we do, sometimes we can pass up on an opportunity to strengthen the blade of another person around us and for them to strengthen our blade. In the same token, on the spin side of it as well, we have to embrace those moments where we realize, you know what, this just isn't worth it. I got to walk away and not be a doormat either. So we have that balance as well too. But just wanted to encourage and say, I love these spaces. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Donika and Brenda. You're all people of faith in God, and you exude that through communicating your message. But let's just continue to do that. I believe this strongly. As iron sharpens iron, so we can sharpen one another when we embrace the flames of adversity and conflict and push past the place of being uncomfortable. So thank you very much, Tim, for the opportunity for the microphone. And thank you, Donika and Brenda. And thank you all for sharing your voice and enabling us to be sharper blades and wielding our message to the world.
Absolutely. And thank you, Caleb. And yes, iron sharpens iron, and we have to be okay with that. And in order for iron to sharpen iron, that means it's going to be some friction. There's going to be some sparks when iron sharpens iron. So it's inevitable, and we can't get away from that. You know that you need your blade to be sharpened. Your blade needs to be sharp in order for it to work. So think about that as your communication. It has to be sharpened. So we have to be willing to embrace the inevitability of conflict in order to do that. And I think back and just was reminded, like with my wife and I, especially in the beginning of our marriage, or just in the relationship in general, what I recognized was that we had our biggest breakthroughs and moments of growth together when we had our biggest moments of conflict, the things that I may have not wanted to discuss. And I would realize that, okay, it has to be talked about. And those would be the ones where when we had it felt the most contentious, that's where we got the biggest breakthroughs. And we learned to not allow those moments of disagreement to create this separation between us. And the more we did that, the easier it became for us to resolve conflict to a point where, and you know how you in a relationship, you may get upset and someone may not speak to you for a day, 2 days, 3 days, and depending on how strong-willed, I won't say stubborn, but depending on how strong-willed someone is, it could be a week that they may not speak to you. And I just began to realize that embracing the inevitability of conflict and having those discussions brought us to a place where it wouldn't be a day that we weren't saying anything. It might be a couple hours, and then get to a point where we disagree, we go our separate ways, but then it's time to eat. So where you want to eat? Where are we going to eat? And those things, they get better. It gets easier. So resolving conflict in those interpersonal relationships will get easier because you understand how it works for you. And keep in mind that the resolution could be slightly different from person to person and relationship to relationship because everyone is different. Remember, as we discussed last week, I believe it was, some people need you to be firm and direct. Some people need you to be a little more gentle and calm in your approach. And if you approach the gentle person with a firm response and delivery, you're going to destroy the interaction. They are not going to receive what you have to say because you have demonstrated that you don't understand who they are inside. You don't know their heart. You don't understand what they need. And as we talk about being confident and effective communicators, it's very important for us to have a mindset and a timeline of, well, not timeline, but a behavior of intentional observation, where we very intently seek, observe to understand the person that we're in this relationship with so that we recognize the nuances. We know when they get upset about something, even if they don't say it. We know when they feel stressed. We know when it's okay to express a concern that you have, because it isn't always a good time. If someone comes in right after work and there was 2 hours of traffic, that's not the time to talk about how you were upset about something that happened 2 weeks ago. You probably should have spoken about it then, or at least wait until they've calmed down and had a chance to relax and get the heaviness of the day off of them. So those things matter when we're trying to resolve these conflicts. So just be mindful of that. But I want to thank you all And before we do close, I'll say, Brenda, do you have anything you want to share before we go as we close?
I will say thank you so much for allowing me to get this practice in. And I hope I did okay approving people. I would also like to add to the audience, as we move into the holiday seasons, we will be thinking about this more and more, people that we are not, people that we are currently in conflict with, particularly if it's a family member. This subject gets a little touchy around the holidays. So keep in mind that if you want to patch anything up, you'll want to do it because it's in your heart and not because it's the holiday season.
Great point. Something to think about. They are coming up, and those times where you're going to be gathered with family. Sometimes your family brings their friends, but you don't want it to be contentious if you can avoid that. So maybe a great time to start embracing the conflict and figuring out how you can listen more intently to understand what the concerns may be and find some resolution so that when you're eating dinner together, there won't be a bunch of side eyes at the table and everyone's trying to figure out if forks are going to start flying in the room. So, that could be really serious for some people. So, forgive me if someone is dealing with something that is overwhelming and very sensitive. So I didn't mean it that way. That's one of the reasons I'm careful about making jokes, because I know I can be silly at times. So I have to be careful not to make the wrong joke at the right time. So forgive me if that touched anyone the wrong way. But Donika, you have anything you want to share before we go?
Yes, thank you again to your team for hosting such a great space. Brenda, thank you for being my right angel and having such a beautiful perspective. Every speakers and listener, thank you so much. Take away from this space today. If you have any conflict, know what you want and how you get there to solve this conflict. Always start with a love and compassion in your heart and be mindful how you handle conflict, always with a peaceful mind. Know that handling conflict is a journey because we learn about ourselves is a self-discovery journey, is a healing journey, a growth and evolution for you, for me, and everybody else, because these are lessons that we learn to gain wisdom and find answer in solitude. Be mindful, go out and for a walk, take a deep breath in, say some positive affirmation, because guess what, when you give that love and attention to yourself and solve that conflict within yourself, the world know then you are doing that job, from the way how you speak, from the way how you support others, and the way how you want to improve everything in this world. So love heal everything. Sending you love, healing, and light from my heart to your heart. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Thank you for that, Donika. So everyone take heed. So as we close, we've discussed the potential benefits of interpersonal conflict and how the shift in mindset to not just look at conflict as chaos or strife, as Mama B brought up earlier, but look at it as an opportunity, because it is. You have an opportunity to either strengthen a relationship or allow it to crumble. And that's a choice you get to make. And we have to stop running from the conflict, because inevitably anything that's underlying, it's going to fester if we don't figure out how to resolve it and take time to understand it. And the conflict could be something that someone else is experiencing internally, or it could be you. But at the end of the day, some of the benefits of resolving the conflict and dealing with this interpersonal conflict is that it will reveal true feelings that people have when they're willing to go to bat for what they feel inside. So it reveals their true feelings. It will save you time so that you can make a decision if this person or these people are someone that you want to be in your life at this season in your life. It may not necessarily mean never, but it could mean not right now, because you may not be ready for what they offer, or they may not be ready for what you offer. And you may need to agree that let's go our separate ways for a time and see what happens down the road. And that could very well work out. And then that it reinforces relationships and confirming the bond. And I'm a firm believer that someone cannot convince me that they are truly great friends with someone or in the type of relationship that's going to endure if they haven't had to go through some type of conflict and figure it out on the other side. That's how you know. Because you can say you trust someone, that you believe in something, but you can't really know that you trust something or trust someone until you've been put in a situation where you have to trust. Someone says that they trust God, but let me see them get fired from their job and see how they respond. That's when you find out how much trust you have when things get scary, when they get hard. And in our relationships, these interpersonal relationships, things are going to get hard, and we can't be afraid to address the hardness in those relationships that have to happen to allow us to understand how committed or how connected are we really to this relationship that we say we care so much about. You're going to find out a lot in those moments. And then it's going to help establish some clear roles and boundaries in the relationship, because during this exploration of understanding, where you're listening intently to understand, you're going to realize what it is that you may have done that was offensive. So you know not to do it in the future. You may realize that what you're doing may not be enough, which is potentially causing problems. So the boundaries and the roles that are expected, that people are wanting or needing in these relationships, all of this comes about when we are willing to allow iron to sharpen iron and embrace the inevitable conflict that's going to happen in our lives, especially in the interpersonal relationships, because some of the other ones you may not care about that much. I don't get too caught up in if there's conflict at work. I typically will resolve it. I'll typically make an effort, but there are sometimes some circumstances where I don't really care that much. I mean, if we don't speak, we don't speak, depending on the environment. But when it's something essential, someone close, I'm going to resolve it. So, with that in mind, I just want to say thank you again, Brenda, Donika. Thank you, everyone, all the speakers. Lawan, who's still up as a speaker, Ingrid, Phantom, Sumtu Chukwu, Billo, Roseanne, Aura, who is up as a speaker as well. And I want to thank everyone that is listening. For those, some have been here from the beginning, some may have joined recently, but I appreciate you all. Michael, I appreciate you, sir. Bella, great to see you. Barbara, Max, Fabio, Angel, Rookie, Jules, Christy, Brock, Creative Side, Sanatoshi, Sanatoshi, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. Maybe one day you'll come up and speak and let me know how to pronounce it the right way if I didn't. Sanatoshi. We got Sherry, Fibonacci Man, Joaquin, Anya, Emmy. We also have Human. Yes, Human. I think I got that right. Human. Then we have Nukes, Heather, Yvonne, Kel, Jane, B. Marjorie, Queen Nandi, Ethos Ambassador, Kagiha. We've got Modemo, Kamlesh, Aurora, Meko, Lotus, Danchim, VGX Heroes. We've got Obi-Wan, Anna, and Naomi as listeners today, or right now at this moment. So I just want to thank you all for being here, and I really appreciate your presence as always, and I don't take it for granted. And I just hope that what we've discussed, that it's something that you can walk away with and apply it, put it into practice, because the conversations don't matter if we don't actually put them into practice. And as I like to remind you, that I want the best for you in all things. And when we become confident and effective communicators in our lives, we're willing to take risks. We get comfortable being uncomfortable, and we put in the work to practice, practice, practice to get better. Your life will change. And that is a very prescriptive statement that I make. Hands down, your life will change when you do that. So I hope everyone stays safe. and have a fantastic rest of your day, morning, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. Be blessed. Thank you for joining today's episode of the Confident Speaking Space. Your contributions as a speaker and your presence listening live or on the replay are greatly appreciated. If you enjoyed the experience and want to show some love, feel free to visit the link on my profile and buy me a coffee. Until we meet again, I pray you have a fantastic week ahead. So be blessed, be safe, and be intentional about becoming a more confident and effective communicator. Let's get it. We gonna